all welcome once again. For all participants all around the world, if you are in Ghana, if you are in any other part of the world, good morning, good afternoon, and then good evening. And then we are so grateful and so much delighted to have you join us for this very session, the maiden edition of the Africa Entrepreneurship Accelerator Summit. First of all, what we're going to do is that we're going to run a fast poll just for a few minutes. It's just going to run for a few seconds. And then we want to know a few things. And so I'm going to launch a poll. If you are here, please participate. It's just going to run for about 5 seconds. Okay, poll has been launched. Three questions: which part of Africa are you from? Indicate whether you're from East Africa, Central Africa, Western Africa. If you are outside Africa, please choose other. Choose other. Second question goes, are you a student or you are a worker? We want to be sure the percentages we are dealing with here, because we're going to have different kinds of conversation today, going to affect different, demographics, and so we would want to know. Want to also know if you are an entrepreneur. Are you already into entrepreneurship, or something that you're planning to become, or something that still fascinates you? Whichever one it is, soon enough, we're going to have the poll run out in a few seconds. So if you're here and you haven't done that yet, please just do that. Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm ending the poll now. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you so much. All people are still on. Okay, so this is the result of our pulse check. The poll we just ran, this is the result. Which part of Africa are you from? We have about 16% joining us from East Africa. We have 68% from West Africa. We have about 6% from Southern Africa, 3% from Central Africa, and then 6% from outside the African domain. Okay, that's very well noted. Our speakers are taking note of that. Are you an entrepreneur? Okay, we have 71% of entrepreneurs with us at this moment, and we have 29% saying they are not entrepreneurs. Probably they are employees, or they're still thinking about something like that. Are you a student or you are a worker? We have 13% of the people right now starting with us are students. We have 77% who are workers, and then we have 10% of our participants who are unemployed. All right, the results are going off. Thank you so much for participation. Thank you so much. All right. Okay, so thank you so much. We now know the people that we are dealing with. We're dealing with 10% of people who are unemployed. We're dealing with 71% entrepreneurs, 29% who are not, students inclusive, workers as well. Thank you so much. So what is this Africa Entrepreneurship Accelerator Summit all about? The subject, the broad theme for our summit today is entrepreneurship, Africa's catalyst for economic development. Entrepreneurship, Africa's catalyst for economic development. I believe we've been hearing a lot about entrepreneurship lately. Wherever you pass, you see entrepreneurship on the internet, here and there. We see a lot of conversations going on, and today we would also want to have very key conversations around that same topic. But before we get straight into that, we're going to have our keynote speaker take over very soon. But before we go into that, I will do a quick, I'll share my screen briefly and talk a little bit about the organization that put this event together, which is the WestlionCo. Okay, so just a quick one. I'm just going to be very quick with this. The Africa Entrepreneurship Summit is actually proudly organized by the WestlionCo. So what exactly is WestlionCo? Let me start by saying my name is Gifty Boatema Anan, and I'm privileged and honored to be a co-founder and the CEO of WestlionCo. Within a few minutes, I'll take you through what WestlionCo is all about, and then we can quickly take it up from there. So the WestlionCo is literally an Africa-centered hub. For those of you who are hearing WestlionCo for the first time, is an Africa-centered hub and a service office company that offers capacity building trainings and other opportunities for young entrepreneurs, startups, SMEs, but we have particular focus on female entrepreneurs and student entrepreneurs. And some of the things that we do briefly are actually stated here. We are into capacity building. Like I mentioned earlier, we are into advocacy. We're into business incubation. We're into mentorship, funding, particularly for female entrepreneurs, not all kinds of entrepreneurs. We have a niche, and our niche is female entrepreneurs and student entrepreneurs. We also offer unique office spaces. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you definitely need an office space to work from, to make your dreams and your wild dreams come true. We provide that. And then we are also into events and networking. So what you see today is one of the events we do, but this one is a virtual event. Hopefully, we are believing that next year we might have the same event, being our annual event, and we're going to have it probably in person in any part of Africa. Could be in South Africa, Namibia, Nairobi, could be anywhere, in any part of the world. Our mission is basically to empower African startups to succeed, starting from Ghana. And so this is what we're doing. This conversation you see here today is definitely going to go a long way to empower some entrepreneurs, some people who are not even entrepreneurs, and it's going to empower all kinds of people to take a stand and contribute their quota as far as economic development of Africa is concerned. All right, I'm going to just go straight up into, okay. Okay, so our key initiatives are the WeWeb program, the WeStep program, the Entrepreneurship Cafe, which is coming up 2023, and then exposure hikes. Now I'll give a little background to these things. The WeWeb is basically a woman-focused initiatives that aims at driving change by empowering female-led businesses and female-led startups with functional knowledge, entrepreneurial skills, and resources to help them surmount startup challenges. Now, under the WeWeb program is where we have what we call the WeFEC, the WestlionCo Female Entrepreneurs Community. And so for those of you who follow us on our socials, you realize that recently we took a group of female entrepreneurs on an industrial visit to the Ghana Export Promotion Authority and the Ghana Commodity Exchange, simply because we believe these organizations remain entrepreneurial catalysts to young entrepreneurs, and these organizations are able to open doors to help young entrepreneurs do better and take their products and their services and the things that they are doing even beyond the borders of their home country. And so we had very, very exciting moments. I think I have some pictures here. This is a picture we took with Tusi Ivowi at the Ghana Commodity Exchange. These are diverse people who deal in different things. Some are farmers, some are are into baking and all kinds of products. So that's our female entrepreneurs community. If you're here, you're female, you are an entrepreneur, you're welcome to join us. Maybe after this program, you could hit me up and then I could send you the link so you fill it up and be a part of us. There's also a very beautiful picture of us at the Ghana Export Promotion Authority Impact Hub. We learned a lot. It's still one of the things we're going to do in 2023. We have lots of things to do with our female entrepreneurs. So I'd say this is the time to be a part of us. Great. As an organization, we are project-based. We have quite a number of projects coming up. And then I also talked about our focus on student entrepreneurs, which happens to be our WeStep program. We also have quite a number of programs and initiatives coming under this program. With time, we're going to let you know about that. The Entrepreneurship Cafe is going to be launched in 2023. Maybe I'll just, for the sake of this event, I'll talk about it. It's just a monthly engagement with highly successful business entrepreneurs, just so we can provide a roadmap for those who are coming up next after these veterans. What is the way? How do they go about it? And that's what Entrepreneurship Cafe is all about. When we launch it, we hope that you all support our initiative. I'm going to show you the team that handles WestlionCo. Myself, my gorgeous self, you can see, Gifty Wasman as a co-founder and CEO. I have my colleague, Paul Frimpong, who happens to be my other co-founder, and he's in charge of strategy and growth as well. And then we have two other colleagues, Achupi Davo, who happens to be our creative director, and Tassicius, who is our director for business development. I think basically we've done a few training programs. We had a training program, it is just some of the few things we've done so far. We've had some programs in digital marketing for free for some of these entrepreneurs. We've had programs on capital raising for startups. And so there are a lot of things that we do. If you associate with us or you come be with us, you're going to enjoy as a startup. And we hope to do better and do more in the coming times ahead. These are some of our office spaces available for, for you to use. Thank you so much. You could visit our website, www.WestlionCo.com. And then you could visit our socials at WestlionCo on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook. Thank you so much. So that's the bit about WestlionCo. If you didn't know about us, this is what we do and this is what we're doing. And so be a part of us. We look forward to partnering with other people, other stakeholders, other partners, so that we can do bigger and better things with time. Back to what we're discussing, entrepreneurship. Africa's catalyst for economic development. We are so privileged. Today we have 3 phenomenal female leaders with us. We have Akosia Menu, who is the Deputy CEO for the National Youth Authority. We have Arielle Molino, who is joining us all the way from Kenya, Nairobi, and she is the Associate Vice President for Intellecap. We also have Hamdiya Ismaila, who happens to be the General Manager for Venture Capital Trust Fund. And today she's going to be our keynote speaker. As a keynote speaker, she's going to really give us a broader perspective of what today's event is all about. After she's done with what she's going to do, our 2 other guest speakers will also take the stage and take us further into the topics that they were given. I'll give a brief profile about Hamdiya, our keynote speaker, and then we can quickly give her the stage to start with us. Give me a few minutes. Okay. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, Hamdiya Ismaila is the General Manager for the Venture Capital Trust Fund. I'll read a brief about her. She has over 20 years experience in finance and investment and over 13 years experience in venture capital and private equity investing. She has supported the venture capital and private equity ecosystem development through education and influencing policy and regulatory outcomes for the industry in Ghana. She's currently the General Manager of the Venture Capital Trust Fund, where she oversees the investment and general operations of the trust. She reviews fund proposals, that's very juicy, conducts due diligence, and presents investment recommendations to the trustees of the fund. She also manages the Venture Capital Trust Fund Technical Assistance Facility, which is designed to support fund managers and build the capacity of investee companies. Prior to joining the VCTF, she was a deputy director at the Ministry for Private Sector Development, where she led in the provision of business advisory services, financing arrangements, enterprise support services, skills development, entrepreneurship training, and promotional workshops for MSMEs. She is an angel investor and was instrumental in the design of the Ghana Angel Investor Network. She is also a director of the Ghana Angel Fund and the founder of the Lady Angel Network, which invests in women-owned and women-led businesses. She chaired the Ghana Task Force, which successfully led to the establishment of a National Advisory Board for Impact Investing in Ghana. She has been at the forefront of impact investing over the last 8 years, establishing the Gimpa Center for Impact Investing and working closely with the team and other stakeholders in promoting impact investing in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the profile of our keynote speaker. And at this point, I would say that with a resounding virtual applause, I would want to give up the stage to our keynote speaker, Hamdiya Ismaila, as she takes us through the topic, Entrepreneurship, Africa's Catalyst for Economic Development. Thank you so much, Hamdiya.
Thank you, Gifty, and a very good afternoon to everyone, to my colleague panelists. Arielle, it's good to see you. Akosia and the rest and participants. A very good afternoon to you, and I'm really honored to be part of this event. And to speak about entrepreneurship, right? So this is an Entrepreneurship Accelerator Summit, and the theme is Entrepreneurship, Africa's Catalyst for Economic Prosperity, which I think is a very interesting topic, and also a very good topic indeed for the time in which we are in. As Africans, and in particular, being Ghanaian. So I would like to look at this topic in different ways, trying to look at why we are looking at entrepreneurship as a catalyst, and why is it so as a catalyst, and the challenges we have, the opportunities we have in the continent, and the challenges we have in the continent, the kinds of entrepreneurs we need, and then try to wrap it up all together. So Africa is gradually taking its spot on the international stage as a continent of growth and opportunities. Notwithstanding though, there are critical challenges which generally need, which includes creating substantial jobs. You know, we have challenges on youth unemployment, so we need to really create a lot of jobs, and then also build the core group of homegrown business leaders capable of accessing global market and drive growth in sustainable and inclusive ways, because nowadays we are all talking about sustainability. Entrepreneurship has important spillover effects as well, which is mostly also very positive for the economies. Although all regions have different level of entrepreneurship, it is generally recognized that entrepreneurship serves as both an input into economic growth and wealth creation. It is also acknowledged that entrepreneurship is dynamic and is affected by changing conditions and competitive pressures. This can be positive, reflecting in innovations that transform the economic landscape in a manner that creates broad-based improvements in social welfare. And so when we look at it as a catalyst, these are the reasons why we look at it, that it could be a catalyst for us as Africans for growth and prosperity. And so entrepreneurship is central to Africa's future. The biggest business opportunity in the coming years will be created by Africans who start businesses to generate jobs and wealth and capture growth opportunities. And before I go deep, I dive into the opportunities and the challenges, I just want to give a few examples so that we would look at exactly the trajectory in which I want to take this, this conversation. So over the years, entrepreneurship has been the backbone of economies. So I've said that, and it generates jobs, it creates wealth. And so it will be very important to look at it within the global context. And I take my first example of Henry Ford, who set up the Ford Motor Company. Ford Motor Company is widely recognized not only for its accomplishments, but for its way of thinking and leading. The production system was able to reduce car manufacturing cost, which automatically reduces the price of cars. Henry Ford and other manufacturers fueled the American economy by improving productivity. They also raised standards of living by creating more high-paying jobs. Ford's US activities contribute approximately 100 billion to US GDP through suppliers, dealers, and various community industries. Roughly 1 million jobs are attributable to the company's US operations alone. Overall, Ford employs 88,000 people directly and had more than 3,000 dealerships that employ more than 170,000 men and women across the US. In 2020, Ford purchased more than 47 billion in goods and services from more than 5,300 US-based suppliers supporting businesses in 47 states. If we have 20 Fords in Africa, that could create over 5 million jobs. And so entrepreneurship indeed is going to be our catalyst, and we need to, for economic prosperity. I want to look at Amazon and look at Jeff Bezos, the e-commerce tycoon, the founder and CEO of Amazon, which is the largest e-commerce company in the world. Over the past 25 years, Amazon has grown from a small startup to the second largest private employer in the US. The Amazon contributes an estimated $315 billion to the US GDP since 2010. Amazon's investments have led to the creation of over 2.7 million jobs in the US alone. They have more than 800,000 employees across 40 states and 250 counties. So if you look at the way Amazon operates, they have warehouses in different counties to bring the goods, to deliver goods quicker to you. And so they have warehouses across different counties. In addition, Amazon has produced a ripple effect of more than 780,000 indirect jobs that help communities across the US to thrive. Furthermore, Amazon is supporting the rapid growth of small and medium enterprises to launch and grow by selling their products online. SMEs have created more than 1.1 million jobs in communities across the US as a result of selling on Amazon. In addition to creating quality jobs, investing in innovation, and paying taxes to government, Amazon is supporting communities across the US from caring for the environment to building skills of the future. For instance, Amazon recently announced it's investing $100 million in a fund called Right Now Climate Fund to support nature-based climate solutions. I'm bringing it home. For those of you who are wondering why I'm giving these examples, I'm bringing it home. And looking at Dangote. Aliko Dangote, the founder and current chairman and CEO of Dangote Group, the largest industrial conglomerate in West Africa, is responsible for 10% of Nigerian economy. Dangote Group has invested worth more than 40 billion in various sectors in the Nigerian economy. The group is Nigeria's highest revenue contributor, contributing about 31% of revenue, Nigerian total revenue. The group is investing 14 billion in refinery of crude, cement, food products, and over 100 million investment in rice farming. Dangote PLC, Cement PLC, the cement subsidiary of the group, is one of Africa's biggest job provider in the manufacturing sector. In 2019, Dangote Cement employed 54,000 people in 4 African countries: Nigeria, Ethiopia, Senegal, and South Africa. Currently, Aliko Dangote has announced plans to create 300,000 fresh jobs through his new multi-billion naira investment in the sugar subsector. We need more Dangotes in Africa. And so what I want to say is that when we talk about entrepreneurship as a catalyst for economic prosperity, it is real because others have done it. And if we really want to take the continent into the next trajectory, we need to pay a lot more attention to entrepreneurship and the support that we give to entrepreneurs to thrive and grow, which could solve a lot of our problems. One of the biggest one is employment, creating jobs, reducing poverty, and also helping our government to generate more tax revenues. Because currently, the revenues generated throughout the continent by our governments are not enough. And that is why there's always a gap in our budget and we are always borrowing. So now let's look at opportunities within the entrepreneurial landscape. The age of entrepreneurship is also about identifying opportunities and disrupting the status quo. In the coming years, many of Africa's current development challenge will become bankable business opportunities on which the youth can capitalize. Africa has seen a significant improvement in their economy despite being seen as an underdeveloped continent. Africa presents a lot of resources and opportunities that entrepreneurs can take advantage of. And so let me highlight a few. And I'll start with agriculture. Africa owns 60% of the world's arable land. However, most farmers in the continent do not have access to capital that allow them to cultivate their land, leading to food shortages in some instances, in actually most instances. How can we be having 60% of arable land and yet go hungry? For this reason, agriculture and agribusiness in Africa remains to be profitable and it remains a big opportunity. The African government together spent at least 30 billion on food imports. And I know for Ghana as example, we spend almost about $1 billion USD importing rice. Rice alone, almost 1 billion. And just last week, the Honorable Minister of Finance, when presenting the 2023 budget to Parliament, he was very categorical, and he stated that government would expand the productive capacity in the real sector of the economy, and I'm quoting him, by actively encourage the consumption of locally produced rice, poultry, vegetable oil, fruit juices, and ceramic tiles. It's in our 2023 budget, which is laid before Parliament just last week. That tells you how much money we spent importing food, which all can be produced here. The central bank last week also issued a statement that they're no longer going to support rice import with the reserves. And as I speak, one of the largest companies in Ghana, Jospon Group, actually it was a front page cover on Monday, is in Thailand, trying to enter into partnership with the major rice producers so that they can support with integrated rice farming projects in Ghana. So these are the opportunities that entrepreneurs need to begin to take advantage of. If there is support to local agribusinesses, the continent can produce enough food for its people whilst creating wealth. And that is true. We can save a lot of forex if we're able to even produce just to feed ourselves. Another sector that is also of interest that has a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurship is energy. If there is one thing that Africa has in abundance, it is sunlight. We have over 300 days of sunshine a year in most parts of Africa. But even with that, several African families are still left without electricity, and there is a huge need for reliable and sustainable energy sources. Apart from the desperate need for it, solar energy also has an ample benefit. First, it is clean, readily available, and secondly, it's a perfect option for those in areas with little or no infrastructure. So if you're an entrepreneur and you have a knack for sustainable energy, the solar power business might be a good business idea for you with huge potential of creating wealth. Another area of opportunity in terms of sector is waste recycling. Africa produces large amounts of waste every day. Most of this ends up burned or washed away into the landfills and water bodies, which create pollution problems for us. 40% of the population growth in the world is expected to take place in Africa by the year 2050, which means the waste is about to double. Waste recycling, therefore, provides an opportunity for businesses to help the African environment and to sustain us and the people by also creating wealth, jobs and wealth for people. Education is another. It's one of our problems. New educational facilities are coming up. We need a lot more in education. If we're going to be more, our population is going to increase by 40%. We need more schools. And so is healthcare. Healthcare is a massive challenge in Africa, and providing accessible and high quality healthcare to people across the continent is in dire need is very, very important and also critical. We need satellite and portable clinics, across, to incorporate technology to ensure that, it's accessible in rural areas. And so these are also opportunities for entrepreneurs and for us as we try to build the continent. Let me look at some challenges. So notwithstanding these opportunities that I had just mentioned, doing business in Africa is not for the faint at heart, but we have to do it. There are significant challenges to overcome, though, and one of which is capital, physical capital, which is pivotal to entrepreneurship. Efficient infrastructure and access to natural resources represent critical input into the entrepreneurial process. Sustained supplies of electricity are essential to operations, scale, and efficiency of all businesses. And a basic requirement for digital technology. Good roads, an efficient transport system, high-speed internet are also important infrastructure for businesses to thrive, but these present gaps in the African entrepreneurial ecosystem. One fundamental objective is for incubators and accelerators also is to support ideas and to protect and ideas and prospective commercial ventures that have a chance of success in the market once produced at scale. However, difficulties in getting financing for startups is a challenge. There's a lot going on, but there is a lot more to be done. Prospective financiers do not bankroll on venture until they see a finished product, a system or application that has been used and endorsed by others in the market. And so startups face a difficult environment when seeking to access finance. And even when they do, covenants and stipulations and conditions put in place by some of these financiers interfere with the operational freedom and the originator's ideas or desires to continue to grow. In essence, some investors stifle progress of entrepreneurs, even when they come in at an early stage to support them. And so to curb this, we need different kinds of investors with different kinds of financing that support companies right from their infancy to growth and maturity. We need to develop the angel investing ecosystem very well to support very early stage businesses. We also need more VC funds to support commercialization, to scale up, and PE funds for expansion. And we need more banks to come in a lot more, getting to the end of the life cycle. We need African investors to begin to take a long-term approach to financing entrepreneurs for success. That is very critical. Also, in terms our system is still weak, which in essence constrains both supply and demand factors. For instance, demand for innovation and entrepreneurship is weakened when large-scale companies have protected positions in the market and are insulated from competition. That does not encourage new ones to come on. We need to have policies that support companies at the various stages of their life cycle and protect particularly startups, new technologies and innovations for them to introduce more efficiency in the way we do things. Another major challenge we have is intra-Africa trade, which is often difficult, slow, and expensive, in part due to local laws and regulations governing cross-border payments and domestic banking systems in various countries. But we have some good news. And the good news is that we have the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is said to be the largest continental free trade area in the world in terms of member states after the WTO. The AFTA members are committed to eliminate tariffs on goods and services of a certain number of years. The long-term objective include creating a single market, thereby reducing the barrier to capital and labor. Which therefore would facilitate investment, develop regional infrastructure and establish a continental customs union. It is my hope that African entrepreneurs will take advantage to expand their businesses across borders, so that instead of sitting in Ghana and dealing with about 30 million population, you will be dealing with over 1 billion population across Africa. Because that is where you are able to achieve scale, so that you can reduce cost and make things a bit easier for customers and build, your customer base. And so what do we also need to see in an African entrepreneur? We need an entrepreneur, or we need entrepreneurs who are resilient, who are highly innovative, who will then introduce efficiency into their business that reduces cost to the final consumer. We need entrepreneurs that take risk to pursue new opportunities, who understands the market, who continue to learn, and who consider failure as new opportunity. And so we need to have all this, because if you look at the spectrum of entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs across, to be successful, you need to provide the customer value in the sense that you have a superior product which is cheaper than your competitor and which is easily available. And so we need to also be able to look at entrepreneurship in that aspect, which will help us to be more successful in what we do or what we want to do, so that we can become catalyst for prosperity within the continent. So in conclusion, entrepreneurship can be a rare catalyst for African economic prosperity when we take advantage of the opportunities that exist within the continent and deal head-on with the challenges. The regulatory issues, the infrastructure issues, the funding issues, and so we need to work collaboratively around to deal with the challenges head-on. And as seen from the examples, entrepreneurship leads to efficient businesses, it leads to jobs, it leads to wealth, and cumulatively it helps government generate more revenue through different forms of taxes, which then leads to economic growth and prosperity, because government needs the taxes to grow the economy, and a lot of production also improve our GDP. In Africa, we know that the private sector is what is going to drive us, which is where the entrepreneurship lies. And so we need to work a lot more on that and support a lot more with the financing and the challenges that comes with this. And organizations like WestlionCo and other organizations that Arielle works with, Intellecap and others, all have to come together to begin to look at some of these challenges and how we can solve it. We need to build into the entrepreneurs the resilience they need, and also work around opportunities that present itself so that we can take advantage to build the Africa that we all dream of. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hamdiya, Ismaila. Thank you so much for that. Wow, that was comprehensive. That was a comprehensive keynote. I'm sure wherever you are, you have really taken some notes. I was busily writing while she was talking. If you have any questions for Hamdiya regarding the things that she spoke about, she talked extensively. I mean, matter of fact, she gave us some examples of very key entrepreneurs who have done amazing stuff and brought it down, even back home in Africa, what we can do, the challenges that are, facing young entrepreneurs alike. And she also talked about the fact that she mentioned a few sectors that if you're looking to go into entrepreneurship, you should look at, which are very spotty areas as of now for as far as entrepreneurship is concerned. She mentioned the energy sector, she mentioned waste, recycling, and a few others. If you have a question for Hamdiya, Ismaila, our keynote speaker, please do best to send it to our Q&A session. We're going to, along the line, I'm going to mention them, and then she will deal with them properly. Hamdiya, I just have one question before I move on to our next guest speaker, who is Arielle Molino. The question I have for you, Ryan, is just a short one. It looks as if you talked about financing, which is very key to entrepreneurship, even Africa in particular. But we found and we have seen that there are 4 main countries that are, taking up all the funds that are coming into the African continent. We're looking at the 4 big countries we have in Africa. We have Kenya, we have Nigeria, we're looking at South Africa, and let's talk about Egypt as well. I think reports have all said it's because of their populous advantage. But at this point, I would want to know, is there anything they are doing that is helping them attract these venture capital that other countries in Africa are not getting to do so? Can you just briefly, maybe in a minute or two, just touch on that, and then we move on to the next person?
Thank you very much. Most VC funding goes a lot. Most of the investment that has come into Africa really have gone into these 4 countries. Yes, they are large, but also they have the regulatory framework that support those kinds of investments to come in. And they also have entrepreneurs who have businesses that could be scalable. Businesses that can absorb certain kinds of money. And that's why in most often when you hear me speak, I would say that we need to grow the businesses to a point where they can absorb more money. You need business that has that absorption capacity, right? We don't have a lot of these investors sitting within the continent. They are investing from outside the continent. So when I put my fund manager cap on, if I sit in London, I cannot justify an investment of $500 or $1 million. The cost of traveling to Accra, to London, back and forth within the period of investment is not justifiable. So when I sit in London, I want to deploy a 5 million minimum up to a 10 million in a company. And so you need companies that have that absorption capacity to be able to absorb that kind of money. And so we need to grow our companies to get to a point where they can absorb that money. So that is one of the challenges that we have, which gives Gifty, the work you are doing in accelerating the companies a very good opportunity, so that you get an angel investor to come, you get a VC funds to come in with a 100K, 200K, 500K, 1 million. And then when they are ready, somebody brings in the 5 million or the 10 million. That is what we have to do. But otherwise, that's how it's going to look like. Because some of these companies you hear who have raised the money, it just didn't happen. They have grown to a point where the absorption capacity is now able to justify an investor sitting outside to put in money.
Makes sense. Thank you so much, Hamdiya. I'm so grateful for your time. That was elaborate. That was spot on. Thank you so, so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Hamdiya Ismaila. I would mention her portfolio once again. She is the general manager for the Venture Capital Trust Fund, delivering a very suitable keynote to give us the go-ahead to, even dive deeper into today's topic. Thank you so much, Hamdiya. Along the line, I'm going to mention a few other questions that comes in, and then Hamdiya will she'll be with us for a while. And so while I go on to the next speaker, we would assess some of the questions that will come in. Our next speaker, you're already looking at her, Arielle Molino, is going to be taking us through the topic, Africa Rising, leveraging ecosystems to drive economic sustainability. Leveraging ecosystems to drive economic sustainability, where we're looking at the interdependent frameworks that work within a particular territory to ensure that entrepreneurial activities are propelled. How are these things done? What are the frameworks involved? Arielle is going to take us through that very shortly. She's going to be fast about it. I'm going to read briefly a few lines of their profile, and then we know exactly who she is. Arielle has more than a decade of international development experience, working with non-profit and for-profit social enterprises in the United States, Kenya, and India. She has experience in consulting, fundraising, business development, and capacity development for social enterprises. Based in Nairobi, Kenya, Arielle has been a prominent part of the startup ecosystem in East Africa. As a member of Intellecap's founding team in East Africa, Arielle was an integral part of establishing the Nairobi office and wears many hats executing Intellecap's work. With the SoundCloud Forum, she develops content, designs the overall event, and SoundCloud strategy. Arielle manages relationships with international donors and investors from across the world, multinational corporations, incubators, and capacity support providers. She has directly given support, mentorship, and advice to hundreds of enterprises across East Africa. This is a brief introduction I'm going to give to Arielle. Ladies and gentlemen, please, wherever you are, a standing ovation in your kitchen, in your office for Arielle Molino. Arielle, the stage is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gifty. It's always a pleasure to be in the presence of Hamdiya. Thank you so much. She is just a wealth of knowledge. So thank you, Hamdiya, for all of your remarks. And she really sort of handed to me on a silver platter with sort of her closing remarks, you know, about getting more different types of stakeholders involved in the ecosystem. And that's exactly what you know, when I talk about an ecosystem, we mean, right? This is beyond just investors and entrepreneurs. Hamdiya talked about the absorption capacity of entrepreneurs, to Gifty, to your last question. And, you know, the health and wealth of an ecosystem also involves people like lawyers, accountants, HR professionals, people that can actually support these entrepreneurs to sort of reach that absorption capacity. So thank you, Hamdiya, for sharing that and giving me a very lovely segue. Gifty asked me to share a couple of slides, so I have my timer going, Gifty. So let me know when I'm running low, but I will try to be quick. Yes, as Gifty mentioned, I work with the SoundCloud Forum. I lead the platform in East Africa. Our approach is an ecosystem approach, I think, which is why Gifty asked me to speak on this topic. Our three pillars that we really approach ecosystem building with is capital, knowledge, and networks. Now, for the work that we do, these three pillars are very critical and interconnected for entrepreneurs to be able to grow and to thrive and to be able to sort of, absorb the capital that Hamdiya was talking about. So entrepreneurs are core to everything we do. The capital, obviously, they need money, but entrepreneurs need more than just money. They need networks to be able to access money, access support, access services, access, support providers. And they need knowledge, not just on the business of what they're doing, but the trends, the sort of economic environment, the political environments that we're operating in. So this is sort of, in a nutshell, kind of our approach. I just wanted to share a few insights that I have seen from the work that I've done in the last 10 years with SoundCloud. And Hamdiya touched on a few of these already, right? So some key opportunities within the sector, few key sectoral based opportunities. Hamdiya touched on agriculture. This is obviously the backbone of most African economies. What's interesting about the opportunities within entrepreneurship and agriculture is that agriculture is a huge sector, and there's a lot of very very interesting things happening across the value chain, all the way from primary production to post-harvest loss, to ag tech and innovative ways to increase productivity, increase output, to more efficient use of water, solar pumps and the like. So agriculture as a sector, I think, is almost too big. You really sort of need to look within the subsectors of that to really appreciate what's happening in the space. Climate change is another one. Hamdiya talked about, we have the wealth of sunshine on the continent. Climate change is another very loaded sector, I would say. It cuts across a lot of sectors. It's beyond just access to energy. Africa contributes the least to climate change. I think as a continent, we contribute about 3% of global emissions. But we don't even really know how much it's costing Africa. Estimates range between $7 billion and $15 billion a year that climate change is costing. Obviously, because closely tied to agriculture, most of our farmers are rain-fed and not irrigated. Within climate change, we also have circular economies, waste management. Hamdiya touched on a few of these, recycling, water management as well, efficient use of water. The next one is financial inclusion. In East Africa, this is very popular in part because of the success of M-Pesa as a platform. But what's interesting and what we're seeing recently within financial inclusion is it's going beyond having access to a digital wallet. We're looking at really innovative finance products that are very specific. So savings for healthcare. So for pregnant mothers, making sure that they're saving over those 9 months of pregnancy to be able to have a safe delivery. Savings for education, savings, and efforts for youth and employment and business. And I'm sure the next speaker will talk more about that. And then the last one is gender. Again, this is very much a cross-sectoral theme, but one that's getting a lot of attention, a lot of importance and recognition is being, focused around gender equality and empowering more women. I am delighted that this is an all-women panel. I'm sure that was intentional from Gifty's perspective. But it's not just about women-led businesses. It's about businesses that also center around what women need and the market opportunities that are there. Looking at the care economy and the massive amounts of unpaid work that women are doing and the potential there to sort of leverage on the care economy. And also looking at women in supply chains. So maybe they're not running the business, but maybe they're supplying businesses and really ensuring that some of those positive impacts are there. So again, those are just some key opportunities that I see very often. Some trends that I see again in East Africa, and I've sort of broken this down by stakeholder type, because again, the ecosystem is big and everybody has different needs. So it's really difficult at times to manage needs and expectations across these stakeholder types. Entrepreneurs, talent is a huge issue. Everyone says they need money. I intentionally put capital at the bottom of this list because money almost comes last. Having a solid team, having a solid, not just top line management, but mid-level management. I see so many entrepreneurs that are really struggling to do everything from run the production floor, deal with the clients, do the invoicing, manage the books, and it's impossible for one person to do everything and for one promoter to be everything for the organization that's trying to grow. And this talent gap is very obvious, and I think that's a trend that we're seeing across the continent. And there are some really fantastic groups of people that are working on building those mid-level managers and really building better talent in this space, again, to help these enterprises grow and thrive. Identifying product market fit is often a challenge that we see with some, especially early stage entrepreneurs. We see a lot of entrepreneurs create a solution for solution's sake, or they haven't necessarily identified an actual need in the market and someone who's really willing to pay, but they've come up with a very cool idea. And that product market fit is so important for the Hamdiyas and the other investors of the world. To be able to attract the type of capital that is being deployed. I actually have a separate slide on capital dedicated slide, and I'll get more into that in a little bit. So we'll come back. I know money is important, so I will come back to it, I promise. For entrepreneur support organizations, some of the trends that we've seen is that they're actually moving more from urban to rural areas, which is a really, really powerful trend. We've seen this especially in Kenya, that urban center of Nairobi is starting to diffuse. We are seeing accelerators in Mombasa and Eldoret and Kisumu, in some of these tier 2 and tier 3 cities, which is a very positive trend. We've seen an increase in sector focus. So we're seeing agriculture focused incubators, or health focused incubators, or housing focused incubators. And this again is a very positive trend, because you can't be a generalist for everything. And enterprises really need some level of sector specificity when it comes to a certain stage in their business. So that's a very positive trend from the support organizations. The downside is incubators, accelerators, advisors still struggle with sustainability models. The costs of running an incubator or an accelerator don't align economically with the amount of support that enterprises need, especially when you're talking about early stage entrepreneurs. They need so much more to support to get to that deal of $100,000 or $200,000, let alone, the $5 and $10 million that Hamdiya was talking about earlier. So that continues to be a challenge. On the investor side, Hamdiya mentioned this, there are few locally based funds. This has started to increase. We're seeing more, which again is a positive trend, but you still see a lot of funders off the continent that are making decisions. And I don't think that's the healthiest for Africa's economic growth. As a result, there's this pack mentality. So the first question investors always ask is, well, who else is in the deal? So they all tend to follow the same deals. It also speaks to not as many enterprises being ready. And again, I'll sort of get to that. I'll come back to that on the capital side. We are seeing, from where I sit, and I would be curious to hear the other speakers, that we see capital supply moving eastward, China, Japan, the Middle East. So we're seeing more investors coming from those regions than we were 10 years ago, where it was really just Europe and the US that were coming in to invest. So that's an interesting trend to note. And investors are starting to recognize the need for smaller ticket sizes, but we're not really seeing much movement on that, which brings me to my next slide of, I just wanted to show we annually sort of do a survey within the attendees of SANCOP, and I wanted to highlight the disconnect we often have between what's happening with entrepreneurs, reality on the ground, and what the investor sort of expectations are. So on this graph on the left, you can see this sort of light green line is entrepreneurs. This is the ticket sizes that they're looking at. And this is the ticket sizes that investors are looking at. So you can see there's a huge, gap between these ticket sizes that are less than $500,000, that there are so many entrepreneurs that are looking for those early stage ticket sizes, but so few investors that are offering it. And by the time you get to this $2 to $10 million ticket size, there are so many investors and so few entrepreneurs, which just exacerbates that herd pack mentality, that I just mentioned. On the revenue side of things, again, our sort of light green teal color is entrepreneurs. This is what their actual revenue numbers are. And then this is the dark blue is what investors are expecting. So you see this inflection point. It's something like 80% of investors that we've spoken to are looking for entrepreneurs that have more than $250,000 in annual revenue, but something like 80% of our entrepreneurs generate less than $250,000 in revenue. So again, you see this vast difference that's again amplifying this herd mentality, pack mentality, because the number of deals that are available that meet those expectations are very few. The other important thing to note, I'll just touch on, is currency. I think this is unique to the continent where, everyone's investing in USD, and I'm sure Hamdiya, with the situation that's happening in Ghana and the inflation rate with the cedi is being very difficult. This is not unique to Ghana for sure, but what this does mean is that the currency loss and the hedging is on the entrepreneur. And that's not fair. But we really are not seeing more local currency funds that are willing to take that hedging risk. And in some of these volatile markets, where even in the even in Kenya, the shilling has just been depreciating very rapidly over the last couple of years. So I will close with a couple of recommendations or things that I would love to see happen in the ecosystem. One is more deals with smaller ticket sizes. Hamdiya touched on this. I think, obviously, I shared some numbers that I hoped hit home with all of you. I also personally feel like the venture capital model is not the only model. We do not only need to support unicorns. Africa's economy is supported by small and medium enterprises that might be lifestyle businesses, that might be small companies that do need access to capital, but that are not going to raise $10 million or $50 million. But there's no financing providers that are really willing to work with these smaller zebras, as they call it, the kind of grays. They're not going to have that hockey stick growth that you would see with a tech company in Palo Alto, in California. So I just want to recognize that there's a diversity of enterprises that exist in the continent, and that they are not all being served equally. That there is this massive emphasis on these unicorns and this hockey stick growth, which is not, I think, consistent with the reality of most enterprises on the continent. I would love to see better linkages across the ecosystem. And what I mean by this is there are so many different players, and everyone is really operating with blinders on, and there are not necessarily enough opportunities to create these connections between people. This is what we do at Sankhalp, but we need more of it. There's so much happening in this space. And if we just created better connections within each other, we could be so much more efficient and so much more effective for serving entrepreneurs. I genuinely believe that. And then lastly is that I would really want to see more sustained support for these early stage businesses to build a healthy pipeline. The reason why there's a pack mentality is because, like Hamdiya said, there aren't enough investable enterprises. But if you want to get more investable enterprises, you need to invest in them and support them at the early stage. This goes beyond just supporting entrepreneurs, and also supports the entrepreneur support organizations who are struggling with those sustainability models. The ESOs, the incubators, the accelerators are so critical to this space. And if they are struggling to sustain themselves, then we are not going to see a healthy pipeline for either the local funds or the international funds that Hamdiya talked about. So I will stop there. I am sorry. I hope I was trying to stay within 15 minutes, and I hope that was okay.
Arielle, that was okay.
Sorry, I hope I wasn't talking too fast. I was really trying to get through.
I saw you were really trying to talk so fast and all that. We enjoyed it. We enjoyed the race. That was exciting. Great. Great numbers right there. Thank you so much, Arielle. Africa Rising, leveraging ecosystems for economic sustainability. I'm sure that some of you there have some questions for Arielle. Please, let's have your questions in the Q&A button. We're going to read them. I see some questions are in for Hamdiya, but I'm going to ask Arielle one question, and then I'll read some of the questions to Hamdiya, and then we move to our next speaker. So Arielle, I'm still on the same ecosystem stuff. A lot of factors come to play when it comes to entrepreneurship. You even mentioned people like accountants. You mentioned a whole lot of stuff. I know that you are primarily based in Kenya, which is Nairobi. And Kenya for so long has been adjudged as the Silicon Savannah, which happens to be like the Silicon Valley of Africa. I should think that if Kenya has been given this title, or Kenya has been identified as the Silicon Valley of Africa, then it means that there's something that Kenya is doing. I want you to briefly narrow down this whole ecosystem thing to Kenya. What is Kenya doing right? What is what are the favorable government policies you have in Kenya? What are the private sector support you're getting? That is helping entrepreneurs rise at the speed that we see them rise in Nairobi. Can you please take us through that quickly?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Gifty. I think, from a government perspective, I think Kenya and other countries, I know Ghana has been working on a Startup Act, Nigeria as well. I think, for me, private sector is always leading the way and government is always trying to play catch up. Entrepreneurs have been in the market for forever, and they have had that hustle for a long time. So I think, there's a bunch of factors. One is, I think, the nature of the sort of hustler mentality. I hate to say that, but that is very sort of synonymous with Kenya. Some investors think it's a bad thing because someone might be doing 2 or 3 jobs simultaneously, and investors want them to really focus on the one thing. But as a result, there are just so many opportunities that are really being tapped. So that energy, that vibe, that excitement is really energizing. And I think that's one thing. I think the second thing is it's easy access. It's easy to get in and out of Kenya, like physically. When we're looking at a lot of investors that are coming in from internationally, that's a huge ease. We're looking at expansion to West Africa for our own work. And this is something that has come up. How easy is it to get into Abidjan or Dakar versus Accra and Lagos, in terms of international travel and the likes. Language is a huge benefit too. Intellecap is an Indian company, and I was the first sort of person to come on board here. And when we were looking at expanding to East Africa from India, these were the main questions, right? Accessibility, communication, ability to very many people speak English. It's it's very easy. It's the language of business. It's the language of government, which I think it tends to be overlooked. But when you're looking at an international market, is super important. And then there are a lot of headquarters for the region that are in Nairobi, and this I think really builds on the talent pool that I touched on earlier. So that when you're looking to set up, Kenya has very, very high human capital. I think it's actually one of the things that Kenya exports the most. I was in Accra a couple of months ago, and we were looking for an event venue, and the chef was from Kenya. These things happen all the time. And I think that's a very good indicator, again, of the health of the ecosystem, that the talent is not only there, but it's actually being exported to other African nations. That really gives a lot of support and not only support to the investors, but support to the entrepreneurs, but confidence from the investors that these entrepreneurs are actually going to be able to deliver on these very lofty ideas and scale opportunities that they are pitching for. So I'll stop there.
All right. Thank you so much, Arielle. I'm sure there are questions coming in. So Hamdiya, if you're here, this question is coming to you. Someone is asking, Zizi says, does the Venture Capital Trust Fund have any existing pipeline of RE and EE projects? If yes, do they have an option for co-financing partnerships? If ticket sizes are too huge for individual companies, why not explore the possibility of bundling projects together to make the ticket size? Hamdiya, so someone is asking, does the Venture Capital Trust Fund have any existing pipeline of RE and EE projects?
I don't know what the person means by RE or EE projects, if you could say what they are.
Okay, Zizi, can you please?
But if they can clarify, if the person can clarify, that would be good. And sure then, yes, we have a lot of pipeline. Actually, we invest in funds. So currently we have about 5 funds investing. And we have a pipeline of a lot of funds who wants to come up. Arielle mentioned local currency. We used to do a lot of investment in dollars. Because of the way the currency is going, now all the funds we are doing are local currency, just so that it could support the entrepreneurs in a much better way, so that we don't transfer the forex risk to the entrepreneur. So that's what we have. The question that he asks in terms of bringing them together, that one is what we've been asking a lot of the accelerators and then the ESOs to support, right? Sometimes the ideas, the way they are, if they come together, they could be much better and more marketable and also able to get support. But everybody wants to be his own entrepreneur. So it becomes difficult to be able to. So the financier won't tell you to go and merge. Because usually in partnerships, there are issues. So the financier won't tell you that. But it is up to entrepreneurs or up to the entrepreneur support organizations to look at these entrepreneurs and based on what they bring on board, try to advise them to come together and actually work in partnership, which will probably make them more marketable to investors so that they can get the funding to scale their business. We do a lot of co-financing. We do a lot of co-financing as well. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Hamdiya. Arielle, I think as questions come in, I'll let them flow your direction. We'll quickly make room for Akosua Menu, who happens to be the Deputy CEO for the National Youth Authority, Akosua Menu. Akosua would actually be taking us through the topic, changing the narrative, transitioning from job seekers to job providers. I'll read her profile briefly, maybe give a few lines so that you know exactly who she is, and then we can learn from Akosua. All right. So Akosua, I think she's affectionately called Cozy Menu, is a Deputy Chief Executive Officer at the National Youth Authority and has made her mark in communications, politics, and entrepreneurship. Before working at the NYA, she helmed communications and digital branding as Deputy Director of Communications for the First Lady, Rebecca Akufo-Addo, and led marketing campaign expansions for multinational corporations such as Max International. She has been awarded the Most Influential Young Politician by Youth Excellence Awards Africa and was recognized by Avance Media as one of the most influential young people in Ghana. Thanks to her focus on supporting young girls as they realize their potential. I might want to add that she is an alumnus of Wesley Girls Senior High School and a product of the University of Ghana, Legon. Ladies and gentlemen, Akosua Menu. Akosua, your audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Gifty. Good afternoon to you all. Having listened to Hamdiya and Arielle, I think my work is going to be very easy. They touched and were so articulate on some of the issues plaguing the continent when it comes to entrepreneurship and also the opportunities therein. In 2019, leading up to 2020, I believe the world first took notice of a ravaging pandemic. We're still trying to get ahead of it in terms of the legacy, the crippling legacies that is left countries like Ghana, low middle income countries, in the wake of recovery. Also, one of the things that countries like Ghana were already struggling with and sitting right at the top was opportunities, especially for work, for employment. Now, there's still, it's not all gloomy. I mean, there's literally, and the cliche is, light at the end of the tunnel. A lot of young people, despite the last couple of years, continue to churn out businesses and solutions and innovations, which has actually made people hope again, which is a good thing because young people hold the key to literally everything. The evolution and democratization of the internet has leveled the playing field in access to knowledge and information. It used to be that information is key, but the amount of information on the internet provided in this age makes a turn of the cliche to for us to consider that clarity is key and not necessarily information is key, because we are bombarded with information all the time. The ability to declutter the noise from the pile of data requires a strong sense of skill, emotional intelligence, and purpose. So the next few minutes, I'm going to focus on one thing, which I think young people within the entrepreneurial space can do to improve their ability to provide jobs for a lot of people. The idea of entrepreneurship comes across as a need to reinvent the wheel. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. Rather, the goal of the 21st century at this stage, and for every Ghanaian, is that our development is focused on building strategies and building synergies among ourselves and business operations. I believe there's a vibrant future for all of us to revitalize opportunities and synergies that grow out of creative communities, maker movements, arts, culture, and recreation. Now, building synergy. What is synergy? Synergy is broadly defined as combined action or operation, okay, a mutually advantageous conjunction or compatibility of distinct business participants or elements, such as resources or efforts. Now, when you think about synergy, it makes you wonder, what can we do to synergize? And that's why I got excited at the tail end of Arielle's presentation, because she captured it somewhat when it came to that as well. Now, we are surrounded by a lot of businesses, but not a lot of business is taking place. And when I say this in Ghana, Gifty can relate to that you see a lot of businesses open all around, shops and whatnot, it's all over. But as to whether business is going on, it's a different conversation. This is because there's a big information asymmetry between business and information. So let's say you have a decor business, but you don't have information about who can give you the best supply of logistics. All right. And it's often when you need something, that's when you realize that there isn't actually enough information about the business that you're asking about. So you may have to be very creative about your potential clients, especially if they have to access your work. It all speaks to one thing: there's a lack of collaboration, and the need to build synergy requires collaboration between businesses to be seamless. And within the value chain, opportunities are created for young people to take up the space and earn a living as well. Now, envisioning connections, assess your value chain and study the linkages that can assist you improve your performance. This will enable you to build the connections. So for instance, for small and medium-sized businesses, linkages are the only way to build capacity. I think there was a question in there about how can businesses scale up? And more often than not, like you said, Hamdiya mentioned that it was actually Arielle, I think it was Hamdiya, she said, if you're going to pitch your business or whatever, the investor is not going to ask you, will not recommend a partnership to you, but it may be that that's actually what you need to take your business to the next level. And you'd have to sit down and make that assertion for yourself. Now, it requires a lot of partnership with competition in order to execute different jobs and contracts. And I believe that as we're going along, at least in the last couple of years in Ghana, we see young people partnering and doing really well. And I could say this, especially I'm taking particular notice in the food industry. I've seen young people partnering as investors and chefs and whatnot, and collaboratively working on innovation. And there's a new joint open in the city, and the concept is quite interesting. Chicken and wine, a little bit high end, but they found a niche and they're tapping right into it. It's like bougie KFC, but I like food, so that's just by the way. Now, engaging in full spectrum branding, this is very important. A strong brand identity will jumpstart your strategy. Till date, you still find small businesses without a website, without social media presence. They are still hung up on the traditional methods of building a business, and times have changed, and building a strong brand is important. Hamdiya mentioned Amazon and the start of it. Amazon was literally on books till they evolved greatly into the huge business they have today. Now, over 70% of customers want a consistent brand experience. And this is important, especially in Africa, because sometimes our cultural uniqueness and identities makes it seem as if it's easy to drop the ball on certain things, but it really isn't. It's important for us to be consistent and always deliver on that consistency. If your company can't find a unique brand online, you have to merge that with in-store branding, event shopping. There are some brands that actually every now and then they do a pop-up event once or twice a year. It's quite even expected with their audiences following them and hoping to tap into that. Presenting your brand consistently would help you increase revenue, and it's actually factual that increasing your branding consistently online can increase your revenues by 23%, and that 23% can go a long way. Now, paying attention to detail can possibly impact your business. Your logo is a perfect example. It's almost, you'd see food logos have a unique, design, fashion logos have a unique design. All these things are important and you need to pay attention to it. And it has to appear on your website, your business cards, on your banners. All these are things that you need to invest in. Visual consistency makes it easy for customers to identify or remember your brand. Keep colors and fonts consistent across digital and physical marketing materials. What we see online should not be different from what we see in store. And most importantly, who the brand represents should not veer off from what the brand stands for. Now, providing seamless solutions. Now, sorry, I think I've caught the bug of talking really fast like Arielle. So I'm looking at the time constraints. Now, provide seamless solutions. Modern customers expect companies of all sizes to have a multi-channel or omni-channel business strategy. Nearly 90% of customers think companies can do a better job of adopting an omni-channel strategy. Therefore, your business can rise above the competition with a synergized plan for online and in-store shopping. Make sure the customer's experience is convenient and cohesive as they switch from one channel to the next. If your company can rise to the occasion with a few simple strategies, you can increase your customer satisfaction. We know when we say customer is always right. It's important, most importantly, giving the new world we're creating for you to give that customer a great experience, because all it takes is one harsh word online about your business and everything can go down. Now, benefits of synergy. Here are some of the benefits of synergy for you to be aware of before you ask for suggestions. Hello, okay. It aids in marketing efforts. Although many organizations engage in marketing, some have better marketing structures than others. Synergy allows companies to combine marketing efforts and resources, translating it to greater visibility and connecting it such for them to both build their brands. You can take Adidas and you can take, for instance, and that's an out there example, but you can even take media houses partnering with telcos and pushing setting brands. So for instance, you take even like a home, it's literally kind of business like a pageant. You have all these brands, hopping on because they want to be connected with what it represents. And it can also help companies benefit from each other's popularity. Synergizing benefits both brands if they are aligned in what their vision is and what they want to get out of it.
Yeah, hello. It
provides a platform that you didn't quite have. Hello?
I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You lost me.
Yeah, for a while, for a bit.
So
Okay, I think we're having a little bit of a problem. Can you all hear Akosia? Is it only from my end or you're all having difficulties? Please let us know.
Yeah, Gifty, I think we lost her. She's breaking
Yeah, I think she's having challenges.
Okay,
I
she's
can't
having
hear you.
challenges.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really?
Okay.
It's
Yes,
not showing from my end though. It seems
So-
seamless.
Is better now?
Is
okay.
it?
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You,
All right.
you were lost for some time.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So which so I was already talking about aiding in marketing efforts, increase in revenue, and these are the benefits of synergy, and then also access to more capital. And these are issues that both Hamdiya and Arielle talked about. Now, synergizing would enable you to be more productive. You're increasing revenue. You're getting more access. You're networking, which is very important to bring in more capital for your business. It can also even literally provide you a new entity, provide the new entity with more capital to execute larger projects. Because sometimes you have that. So you take Westlion, for instance, and when I look at the outline of the brilliant things you're doing, it means that if you could tap into another or collaborate effectively, you'd actually increase the impact you're already having in the space that you operate in. Now, synergized companies are often, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can
We
hear
can
you.
all hear you.
Also,
We can hear you.
okay, synergized companies are also more likely to receive funding from investors who usually perceive these companies as stronger than single companies. So when they see that you're grouped and you're together and you're focused, it tells them, okay, you guys, we know where to drive funding to support this group. Now, improve managerial efficiency. Synergy also requires a measure of the executive terms of both companies. I'm literally preaching partnerships here, and people are partnership averse in this part of the world, but it's proven to be very effective when done right. Managers from both companies can contribute their expertise and perspective to guarantee better leadership. This means if both executive teams cooperate, it can lead to a more effective administration for the new company. Similarly, both executive teams can combine their networks to help the new company secure favorable partnerships and deals. This can lead to an overall increase in productivity for the new company. Now, synergy also helps to save costs. Synergizing means processes can merge, allowing for a reduction in various operational costs. So, for example, two companies decide to synergize can start selling products from the same building. They can save money on rent, warehousing, and other things that they probably would have had acquired and were not using. It would mean that they can transfer that into one hub and work from it. Similarly, synergy may allow companies to access resources or equipment at a cheaper rate. Synergized companies often employ reduced personnel, which can contribute to significantly reduced costs. They get personnel for cheaper. Now, promotes innovation. Effective collaboration can facilitate innovation, allows people with different perspectives and insights to share ideas. And when employees from separate companies combine their knowledge and research, they create more sophisticated products. Synergy also allows companies that produce complementary products to combine them. Teams can then use this to create combined products and provide a different type of value to clients. And this can help both companies and attract more clients and increase sales. Now, there's also increased capacity where resources and facilities when synergized lead to an increase in capacity. This can allow companies to serve larger markets and meet higher demand. Improved employee morale, very, very critical. If executed efficiently, synergy can help improve employee morale. For example, when companies merge, they usually have more staff, allowing employees to reduce their workload. In addition, then synergizing means management can assign new challenges who can help stimulate all levels of employees, leading to better work morale. Now, it is not cliche that we are stronger than we are on our own. It is time to build brands and business synergy to provide more jobs and opportunities. And I believe that when we collaborate effectively and synergize, we unlock the entrepreneurial potential of people in Africa and create more opportunities there for people to take up those spaces and jobs and work. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you to my co-panelists as well for sharing the space with me this afternoon. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome, Akosia. That was great. Touching extensively on partnerships, synergy, and on how people can really cause businesses to be more effective. I mean, working in silos in Africa is a thing we see. I'm in Ghana, so we see that happen a lot. Everybody to themselves. It was the same discussion that was had at the recently held Ghana Startup Summit. And a lot of entrepreneurs want to work in silos, and want to say a very big thank you. I'm sure the 70%, 71% of entrepreneurs who are here right now have heard this. Let's give into partnership. Let's give into collaborations. Akosia, I want to ask a question. Changing the narrative, leveraging, transitioning from job seekers to job providers. We have students amongst us. When we were starting the event, we ran a poll, and then we had about 27 or 29% of people who were students. Now, the thing is this, Ghana Statistical Service has come up with a report. They mentioned some time ago, either ISA or GSS. They said that after school, after national service, it's only about 10% of Ghanaians that are able to secure a job. It takes the rest of the 90% about 10 years to secure a permanent job. Now, we're looking at these people who came out of school. They are job seekers. They have been positioned, and their entire mentality and mindset is in the trajectory of getting a job, getting employed. And suddenly there's this swift flip where the job market is not able to take them on. I want you to talk to these categories of people. At that point, how do you do the shift? Because I believe it's too much for a young graduate who has come out of school to just shift from job seeking. And what are the support systems? As far as NYA is concerned, where do you stand on this? How do you support people like that?
Okay, so I think that one of the things that we are not taught in school often is actually it's not quite mentioned when you're in university, is the chances of you not finding a job immediately after finishing school is a reality. Now, what you also realize is you might, even in school, realize that some of your friends or colleagues or whatnot might have started their own entrepreneurial journeys. Some might be selling or doing something uniquely just to supplement their support from their parents or guardians. And often those driven to it is more as a necessity, in that there's no other way for them to survive than for them to start that entrepreneurship journey. Now, what you would realize though is this: if you're going to take governments cannot literally, and even though the statistics as it is, government is the highest employer when you take Ghana's economy, right? And you take the private sector, and the private sector is trying, even despite what we have been through in the last couple of years, trying to expand and trying to extend in terms of even the sectors we are in. We are seeing the agric sector providing certain spaces where young people are using innovation, okay, to capture that sector. So, for example, there are a group of young people, sorry, I should have given them a free shout out, where they literally have lands, and if you want to go into farming, you invest and they grow for you and invest and give you back your proceeds, all right? And that is innovation in the most beautiful way, because you don't need to really get your hands dirty, but you can still say you're a farmer or maybe a digital farmer, whatever it is. So in terms of innovation, you've helped people get into a certain space, but at the same time, we are discovering that it's not just that space that exists. And I'm saying this because even in the beauty industry currently in the country, 10 years ago, makeup artists were were literally non-existent. And I'm going to use myself an example. On a big day for me, the only two top makeup artists, if you don't get one, you're going to get the other. And if you don't get the other, you're going to end up looking like a scarecrow on your big day. So it's those are the sort of things that back then. But now you literally have them everywhere. Men, women, young girls, like a space that is still, the beauty industry is like so vast. So for young people, I always tell them, you know what, the reality is this, and this is coming from somebody who finished school, went into banking, went into her own business, and now I find myself in the public space as a government appointee, right? You'd realize always that profits are better than wages in any day. For an entrepreneur, you lose the sleep, you lose the fun times that your friends see them cheating and all that. And all you're thinking about is how many customers you're going to meet or bring on board, expand your business. Making that shift is not easy for everyone. And that is why when we encourage people to go into entrepreneurship, it's those who actually have the passion and drive for it. Because when they do well, they create opportunities to employ people who would rather wake up and work or find a safe spot and not actually think or innovate or invent the wheel. So it's literally answering to killing two birds with one stone. Now, when it comes to NYA, NYA facilitates youth development. Basically, we're into trainings, okay? We're into skills development. And now what we've done is somewhat of a 360 approach, but don't forget that we get our support from government and sometimes from partnering with other development partners like the UNDPs and others in the system already. So for instance, we have the skills towards employable productivity, and what it is we literally, let's say we are training young people in the beauty industry. You show them how to do makeup. When they are done, it's a farm to fork approach where we give you the tools to start your business. So we don't say we've trained you, go. We actually give you a starter kit for you to start something on your own. At the same time, you're supposed to do training in terms of business advisory services, how to run your business, how to keep track. And these are the things that where people drop the ball when it comes to businesses, because they start businesses, money starts coming in and they start spending money. It's almost as if they can't make the connection that this is supposed to go back into your business. So the reality is not everybody will come out and find that job, but there are those who sit down and make the consideration that, you know what, I can actually start something on my own. And in doing so, create opportunities for people. Was my advice, my business, actually my supervisor when I was in the banking industry, she was the first person that said, Kuzi, one stream of income won't do anything to you. Your business is supposed to go into your investments, and your main job pays the bills. So don't think and sit that you're going to get all you want from that one job. And she was literally selling and doing things on the side. Literally everybody in the branch I worked was doing something on the side, even though at the time, arguably, bankers are one of the best paid in the system. Okay, so it's not an admission that there's a system failure per se. No, it's the reality that depending on what you want out of life, chances are you need to work twice as hard, or you need to double your time and sacrifice just to make sure you get what you want. So the question is, what would you want? And then you make those considerations. So
okay.
Yes, that's that.
Thanks, Akosha. Yeah, you mentioned, and that's true, because even a few days ago, we have clearly been informed that there's a freeze on public sector hiring. And so you mentioned that government is the highest, in terms of employing these people, but unfortunately they are even freezing it effective January 2023. So I'm just imagining the kind of hardship, the kind of situations that young people are going to be in from January. Already the system is not really flexible for most of the young people. But thank you so much for mentioning that NYA does skills training, and then after skills training, they are able to give you something to start with. You mentioned something about passion, and I'm going to ask Arielle or Hamdiya to answer this question. You mentioned something about passion. When you're going into entrepreneurship, there must be passion and all that. Today, it looks like that kind of idea, because the concept of necessity, driven entrepreneurship and opportunity-driven entrepreneurship. People are no longer even going into entrepreneurship because they are passionate about it. You're looking at situations that are driving people to do things because they need to survive. Can anybody touch on that? And if you don't necessarily have the passion for it, does it mean you will not succeed? Arielle, maybe you can take that or something.
Yeah, happy to. Yes, I think that's a really good question, Gifty, and I think it's a really interesting juxtaposition, and I think differentiation of what we are seeing on entrepreneurship on the continent versus other markets. So if you look at Europe or the US or more developed economies, I would say that there's, in that instance, a different type of necessity and a different type of passion. Someone had asked a question about this, and I sort of mentioned the word grit, right? Grit is not passion. Grit is not being afraid to make mistakes, learn from them, persevering, seeing the long-term goal. Whether that long-term goal is to raise $20 million or whether that long-term goal is to put your kids in school and food on the table, it doesn't matter. That's your goal, and that grit is what I think is most important. Entrepreneurs I talk to oftentimes, who might have different motivations, they're always concerned about, the intellectual property, and what if I steal someone steals my idea. I mean, I think that's not, I don't want to say it's not important, it's not critical, because there are very few new ideas in the world. Delivery is everything. How you're delivering that idea, how quickly you're moving on that idea, how well you're delivering that to your clients is what matters, not how innovative it is. I mean, I think there's a lot of fluff around that that I think is often misguided. But to me, it's that grit that's really critical for entrepreneurs.
All right, thank you so much, Arielle. Hamdiya, I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to ask if the VCTF, the Venture Capital Trust Fund, do you have anything you want to talk to these young people about? Interventions? Do you have anything or you have partners who are rolling out anything you think it will be okay for these young entrepreneurs to hop onto and benefit from? Some key interventions that are on there that could help our participants.
Thank you, Gifty. So we have a few funds that we have just launched, and they are looking at businesses across different sectors. They are not sector, they are sector agnostic, they are not sector specific. So you can actually reach out to some of them. I think I've also seen a couple of adverts for picking entrepreneurs for acceleration and other programs that I've seen that they could look at. I think I've seen InnoHub running a program, different kinds of programs in recent times. But so there are some of these programs happening, there are these funds happening. There are angel networks that are also there. I'm speaking because of where I'm coming from. But essentially, we need entrepreneurs. I mean, Arielle said something very, very important. You need a grit, okay, to be able to be more persistent and have the long-term goal, at the back of your mind. And that drives you, right, to be able to move. And we need to have entrepreneurs who are also very well informed, who know where things can be found. Because I've also realized in my work that sometimes some of the entrepreneurs don't have a clue at all where to go for help, where some of the resources are. And so sometimes in your work, I know it's difficult. It's a lonely journey, right? You are alone. Arielle mentioned it. You are the chief operating officer. You are the cleaner. You are the accountant. You are everything, right? So sometimes you just don't even have the time to do anything else. But seeking information is very, very critical. You see, it's very, very critical for your growth. So you need to make sure that you make time to understand what's happening, what's going on, who is doing what, and then you could take advantage of some of these opportunities when they come. So you should always be on the lookout to see, to be able to identify some of these opportunities as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Hamdiya. I'm going to read through a few questions and then we take them before we are just about wrapping up. And so quickly, okay. Someone says that, directed to Akosua, beyond applying for GEA, which is the Ghana Enterprise Agency, YEA, MUSLOC for financial support, what do we need to really exhibit to secure their support from these agencies? Akosua, if you're here, I think this is directed to you. So directed to Akosua, beyond applying for the GEA, YEA, MUSLOC for financial support, what do we need to really exhibit to secure their support from these agencies? Akosua, if you're around, can you kindly help us with this?
I wasn't clear on the question. You said beyond YEA, sorry, beyond GEA and which other?
Okay, so the person is saying beyond applying for GEA, and I think the other ones are also maybe similar organizations for financial
it's like, where
support.
can you get funding? Where can you get funding?
What do we really need to do to exhibit? What do we really need to exhibit to secure their support from these agencies? Boache, Adolf, I think, can you come a bit clear with your question?
Okay, so what do you, I'm not sure what exhibit is, because for most of it is an online process where you follow through with the online application, right? And then like any other opportunity that abounds in the system currently is always oversubscribed. Okay, it's economics, there's limited resources, there's a huge demand. So, and what GEA does is they've rolled this out in phases. So you might, and this is why data is important, because it's trying to ensure that resources don't go to the same people all the time. You'd find that some young people giving their, I'll say, feelers in the system, they're able to tell what is where, and these same people access that support across the system. But there's a way to ensure that, I mean, the Ghana card, for instance, the TIN registration, to ensure that once you get something, you work with it. Subsequently, if you do well, it just means that you can get support from other sources. So, for instance, it was Axis Bank that started this subsidized in terms of interest rates. They were giving 100,000 Ghana cedis to businesses. All you needed to do was to provide certain details and to ensure that you already had a business going. This was in the private sector, and they could cover as much ground as possible. But if you don't have if you haven't tidied your books as there is, or you're now starting, it's going to be a challenge for you. But if you started already, it means that you can start with a little support from the government and via the private sector to expand your reach for resources to expand your business. Okay. So beyond those agencies, what other people can also do? Sometimes people set Google alerts for the words like grants and donations or support. And Gifty, I'm sure you can do a training on this, where literally you get an alert that, okay, a grant is of this much is going from here. We've had Afri-Exim do this for female led businesses. I saw 3 weeks ago, $250,000 going for female-led businesses. Afri-Exim Bank, it literally was, and I was just sitting there, I'm thinking, who do I know that can access this much, you know? But the thing is, most people do the buying and selling and not necessarily innovate in some spaces. So getting that support with the buying and selling can be tricky. But I think that in terms of what you can do, it's basically making sure that whatever requirements they ask of it, you make sure you do your part. And that's giving accurate information and not, you know, being shady on any of the details you supply. So I think that's about it.
That's fine. Thank you so much. Jojo is asking, are there identifiable cultural myths that constrains these catalysts from having the desired impact on the continent? This one will go to either Hamdiya or Arielle, any of you. I would take it again. Are there any identifiable cultural myth that constrains these catalysts from having the desired impact on the continent?
I
Is the
guess
question clear? Is the question clear?
I'm not sure that I fully understand the question. Yeah, do you want to try and reframe it, Kifty?
Okay,
As you
so
understand it?
okay, so I'm sure this person is talking about investors. If I mean, before they invest in a particular territory or country, are there any cultural myths that they consider? Are there certain cultural, beliefs, systems, and things that have the potential of, pushing them away from giving their investment to the desired territory? Is it clear? Jojo,
Yeah.
if that's exactly what you're saying, please let me know.
Yeah.
I'm thinking you are talking about the investors, you're talking about people who are aimed to support the entrepreneurs in various countries. Are there any cultural beliefs and things that have the capacity to drive them away?
Yeah. I think there are concerns, especially when you're looking at foreigners who are coming into a new market, who are either looking to invest or to support. There are always concerns around integrity, right? And I think that's true no matter where you're doing business. You want to make sure that the people that you're doing business with have a high level of integrity and ethics, and that they're going to deliver what they say they're going to deliver. I think we all recognize that there is a lot of fraud and bribery and things that happen on the continent. That seems to be a lot of the way business goes. And, everything from getting a traffic stop from the police to, getting a passport, issued for, I know my daughter is struggling to get her Kenyan passport for some reason. And we refuse to pay a bribe. So, I think there are these notions that are prevailing. But I think that, I don't think that's unique to these markets, and I don't think that's necessarily cultural, indication of anything. And there are platforms that are working especially against bribery and corruption. Ethics First is one of these platforms, and I can put the link in the chat also.
Okay.
That they're really doing a lot of work across the continent to really improve ethics and integrity with entrepreneurs and investors as well. So I hope maybe that touched on it.
That's okay. We are just wrapping up. We would want to take our final words from our speakers. We'll take our final word from our keynote speaker, Hamdiya, and then we'll come back to Arielle and then Akosia, and then we finalize. Hamdiya.
Thank you, Gifty. I think it's been a great discussion, and most of the questions that came out goes to infer that at least there's been some very good information passed out with this conversation here. Yeah. And most of the issues that were raised are things that are very critical to really building entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Africa. So Arielle just talked about ethics, and it's a very critical ingredient for being a very, for us to get entrepreneurship to thrive. Is one of the key issues. Investors are also very critical about, right? And it's not only in international investors, domestic investors also look at those things. It's very key, right? Especially if it is another form of finance, it is not bank and it's not a loan. If you borrow from a bank, it's easier. But if somebody is coming to partner with you in a different form, then they want to have a lot of more closeness in looking at the business and how the business performs. And so, and how expenditures are done. And so some of these issues really comes up, and it's amazing the way it can really destroy relationships. So it's very important that we take a cue from there. And I look forward to really having a continuous conversation on this. The topic is an interesting one, and we need to continuously explore it from different angles, and looking forward to really build an Africa that we all dream of. So thank you for inviting me. And it's a pleasure to share the panel with my good friend, Arielle and Akusia.
Akusia.
Thank you so much, Gifty, for putting this together as well.
Fantastic, Hamdiya. Thank you so much for those last words. Very inspiring. Our people are listening in. Arielle, can you give us your last words as well?
Yes, thank you, Hamdiya. Thank you, Gifty and Akusia, for a really great discussion. I think maybe most of the folks here are entrepreneurs, so maybe my parting shot is, I know your jobs are not easy. I do not envy you. I have the utmost respect for entrepreneurs. I pretend to be an entrepreneur myself on occasion, but I recognize that I really don't have the grit that you guys have. But I know that the ecosystem is not as big and it has as many opportunities as you all would want. But I do see that changing and growing, and yeah, just a word of encouragement to keep doing what you're doing. You guys are out there changing the world, and it's my hope that that we can all support you in whatever way is possible on your journeys, and by growing these ecosystems and creating those enabling environments for you guys to grow and thrive and shine. So thanks for your time, and all the best out there.
Thanks so much, Arielle. I know it's late where you are, but you still chose to stay with us and still be here. Thank you so much. We're so grateful. On behalf of every participant, I want to say thank you to you, to Hamdiya, to Akusia, for sharing very key nuggets and then explaining certain things, giving us some key interventions and places we can go to access help. We would explore them. I would say at this point that this is why WestlionCo exists. The speakers kept talking about finding the right place, getting the right information, knowing where to seek help. Some of the entrepreneurs are out there and they do not know. I mentioned we went to GEPA and GCX with some of the female entrepreneurs, and they were surprised at the things that they found. They were surprised at the support. And we are currently even planning a one-day export training with GEPA for these female entrepreneurs, those who have products that need to travel beyond the country. And if you're here and you're a female entrepreneur, please, you need to reach out. If you're male or you're an entrepreneur as well, we have other stuff we do, and you could also reach out as well. On behalf of WestlionCo, I want to say a very big thank you. About 90% of our participants have stayed through with us. We want to say a very, very big thank you. You can reach out to any of the speakers, some of them via LinkedIn. Arielle is very responsive. Hamdiya, Akusia, you could also reach out to them. But if you need anything henceforth, you can reach out to WestlionCo. We're going to help you the best way we know how. My name, once again, is Gifty Boatma Anan, and I want to say a very, very big thank you for sticking and staying. Until we meet again for the next event, it's a bye-bye for now. Have a good evening, have a good morning, have a good afternoon. Thank you.